He's got a sock on. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. So today is another Mental Health Mondays. And we are doing a new series which I had promised for the longest time, but it takes some planning really to do. I don't want it to be the conventional type of videos. Like, I actually want to help you guys and help you guys the way that I was helped by other people. So I had to like plan a bit. Well, I mean quite a lot in order to film the first video. So today we're going to be talking about anxiety and how to cope with anxiety, like real life ways to cope with anxiety. It's not even like what you do after, it's about noticing it, it's about regulating it whilst it's happening. It's not just I have anxiety, I'm going to take a bath after to calm myself down. It's I have anxiety, why do I have anxiety? Why is this happening? Is there something I can do about it in this moment that will make it better, if that makes sense? So throughout this video I will be referencing a lot of things from DBT. So if you didn't know, then I did dialectical behavioural therapy for nearly a year. I quit just before, but the skills in it are really good, and I kind of, when you first see them you can be a bit like, oh, I don't think that's going to work, but if you kind of build them up and adjust them and adapt them to your lifestyle and how you work, then they're a lot better and they're really actually flexible to do. So I picked out 3 today. So today the plan is, like I said, this is going to be a series and I have quite a few emotions wrote down. Do you want me to read you out them? Do you want me to read them out to you? So I have anger, anxiety, guilt, envy/jealousy, shame, and then I also want to do with like coping with self-harm, coping with people not understanding, and coping with having sex or being in a relationship with self-harm. So if you have any more ideas about what videos you'd like to see, then hit me up. These are going to be videos that are mainly on a Monday but might be, you know, dotted around. If you like them, obviously. If you don't like them, then I won't carry on doing them. So throughout this series I kind of want us to start understanding and noticing emotions. I think this is such a big thing. Once you understand your emotion and once you notice when it's happening, that's when you can kind of deal with it and cope with it. And I think for a lot of people you don't even realise that it's happening, that you're experiencing a certain emotion, and so kind of troubleshooting your way to find out which emotion you're feeling and then knowing the skills to deal with them is really important. So that's like the main goal, because then once you've noticed them, troubleshooted them, know the skills, we can kind of decrease the frequency of them. Not even the frequency, they might happen all the time still, but the intensity and the way you deal with them might be a lot more sustainable, and you might be able to cope better, and like you'd be able to like live a better life without being consumed and overtaken by all these emotions. So before we start, I just want to give you a little understanding about emotions. For me, for ages, I just wanted to get rid of all of my emotions. I was like, I'd rather be a slice of fucking bread. I don't want to have these emotions overtaking me every single time I wake up. Like, I'm sick of these emotions, they're driving me mad. And honestly, that's how I felt for so long. But the thing you have to realise, and the thing I'm going to tell you now, is that emotions are there for a reason. Our emotions give us momentum in order to do something, and that's kind of incarnate in being human, that emotions give us momentum to do something. Like, they tell us things, and if you start listening to your emotions and start allowing and accepting your emotions, that's when you can kind of grow with them and work with them, instead of trying to like push them away and either neglect them or just distract from them. You need to understand why you're having them in order to move on and be able to live your life, because these emotions aren't going anywhere. Like, let me tell you, they're not going anywhere. And a few months ago I was emotionless, and I tell you what, the days flew by. Like, I don't have really any memories from that time, because nothing really sparked joy in me, nothing sparked fear or anger, and these are so important to have. Also, don't feel guilty about feeling emotions. I know in our society that so much of it is about, you shouldn't feel this way, like girls should not get angry, boys should not cry, like this is a load of bullshit, okay? Everyone feels emotions and you should not feel guilty for feeling emotion. The thing I want to tell you and help you understand in this is that all emotions are valid, however sometimes their intensity is what's not wrong but causing you problems, because you could have the right emotion or the right response to a situation but the intensity might be way off the scale, and that's where you kind of start feeling guilty or ashamed for having these emotions because they are so, you know, loud and obnoxious, when in reality it's like, that emotion's fine. If we can decrease the intensity, then you'll be a-okay, babes. So, anxiety, let's get into it. The first thing we need to do with anxiety, like I said, is spot the symptoms. Now, I'm not going to sit here and list off all the symptoms. I can give you guys a lot more credit than just sitting here and saying hyperventilating, crying. However, I will leave a list down below of like a website, maybe Mind, where they list the symptoms and you can kind of look through them. But what I want you to understand is that anxiety, the symptoms aren't always so marginalized. Like, I have a lot of symptoms of anxiety which aren't the top ones, do you know what I mean? It's weird, symptoms can be a lot more obscure. Like when I feel anxious, one of my symptoms is that I feel the need to control everything else in my life. So I'll be so regimented and I'll be so strict on myself and what I'm allowed and what I'm not allowed to do as like a form of control. I have to do this by this time because otherwise this might happen and this might go wrong. It's not fun. But that's definitely one of the symptoms that I have of anxiety. But not everyone might feel the same way. In the similar way, I isolate myself. I actually appear very flat. Like everything about me is flat. I'm stone faced. Like everything's inward. So inside is like turmoil, turmoil, and turmoil. But outwardly, I'm very flat. A weird one is that I revert back to comforts and I revert back to childhood needs. So when I'm feeling really anxious, like I want to be really comfortable, like I want to watch films that I watched when I was younger. I want to listen to books that I listened to when I was younger. I want to like draw. That's one of the things that I really have noticed that I crave when I'm anxious. I want to be kind of comforted and almost mothered. Like if my mum makes me a cup of tea, I'm like, oh, praise the Lord, like I am 5 again. There are different symptoms of anxiety. You don't have to fit the criteria. There are different ways that they can be portrayed and that's okay. You just need to find out what your way of portraying it is. So the basis of these videos is that you need to understand that what your emotions are reactions. So there will be a prompting event that leads to like a thought, and then the emotion will take place. So they come in a 3. Realizing that every emotion has a prompting event will allow you then to try and understand yourself a bit more. If you understand that, oh, I'm feeling really anxious, and you say, why am I feeling anxious? That's when you'll start being more skillful, and that's when you'll start be able to cope with the anxiety better in the future. So I'm going to give you 3 skills today. And if you want like a part 2 where I talk about different skills with anxiety, then let me know. But today we're going with the DBT skills. So first of all, we're going to go through TIP, which is T-I-P-P. T-I-P-P. So the T stands for temperature, the I stands for intense exercise, the P stands for paced breathing, and the second P stands for head muscle relaxation. Today I want to talk about temperature and paced breathing though, because they're the 2 things that really helped me. If we start with paced breathing, I don't want you to kind of click off this video at this point and think, oh, this is bullshit, I already know that I have to regulate my breathing. Yes, you do. And it's because if you change your biological experiences, then your mental experiences will also change. Like, that is just science. Mental and physical, they go in together. If I bang my knee, then I feel pain, and I also might feel anger at the fucking wall that I banged my knee at. Do you know what I mean? But with anxiety, it also works massively. One of the things that I personally, and I know a lot of people experience, is breathing problems, whether that's hyperventilating and breathing too fast, which is very common, but also like breath holding where you don't breathe and you kind of keep all of your breath in, which in turn means that your breathing is disrupted. Being able to manage your breathing will help calm your whole nervous system down. The reason I love these so much is because you can do them anywhere, okay? If you're in a social situation, this is why I'm telling you it, because you don't have to have a panic attack. You can notice the first signs, the first symptoms that we talked about earlier if you look at the list, and then deal with the emotion before it gets out of hand. Getting back to your natural breathing pattern can be quite difficult, so paced breathing is good because it's like only 3 minutes of doing this. You don't have to do this for 10 minutes because that will actually probably make you lightheaded. But if you do it for like 3 minutes, then it's literally telling your nervous system, it's okay babe, like it's okay, we're not in danger. 5 in, hold for 2 seconds, 7 out. That's my favourite. And if you can't remember, because I could never remember the numbers, I always just remember, you know, in Estelle, American Boy is like, I just met this 5'7" guy who's just my type. If you're feeling anxious, just be like, what is the numbers? I just met this 5'7" guy who's just my type. It will work. That's the way I do it anyway. I wasn't going to show you this, but I got sent this little necklace. Let me go get it because it's amazing, and since it's coming up to Christmas, I think it might, oh god, nearly fell. Literally the company was so nice, they were like, we know you struggle with anxiety, like we have this necklace which helps regulate your breathing and we'd like to send you one. And I'm like, okay, that's really nice. But I was thinking, if you have like, I don't know, a boyfriend or a girlfriend who struggles with anxiety, or like you have a friend who struggles with anxiety, for Christmas this would be so nice. So it's even like a little whistle on the end of a necklace, and it was literally inspired by Japanese monks to regulate your breathing, and you have to breathe in and you can feel it happening. So when you wear it and you're like, oh, because I wear it quite a lot, you're like, you put your lips on it and you breathe in, and when you breathe out you literally let all your body go through that little tube. And it's incredible, like you literally feel like you're deflating and your nervous system's just like so that was just a really cute thing. I'll leave a link to it down below if you want to just have a look at it, because they're really like, they're beautiful and they're like little necklaces, they're really in, so like they look good and they're for anxiety. And also I have this like under my thing at work, so if I'm at work and I'm feeling anxious, I go into the back room, I do this 3 times and I'm okay. I also think mindfulness is brilliant, and I'm not going to bang on about mindfulness because I know a lot of people have kind of a distaste to it. All I would say to it is try it out. Try out Headspace. Give yourself like 4 days that you're just going to do it every day before you go to bed, and you'll notice the difference. It's literally 10 minutes and it's my favourite because whilst I'm doing mindfulness and whilst I'm doing these breathing techniques, I'm not actually catastrophizing or thinking about the situation I'm in. I'm literally focusing on myself and my body and trying to figure out what's going on in there. And that's what you need to do when you're feeling these emotions, is focus on yourself. You can't catastrophize about the situation around you. The world is going to happen whether you're in the toilet or not. So if you just sit, like I keep saying toilet because that's where I go. If you go and sit in the toilet and you just give yourself 5-10 minutes and then come out, then you can enjoy it again. Morning. 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 So on to the T of tip, which is temperature. Now again, this is a biological way to reduce your anxiety, a physical way that you can regulate your emotions and calm down your nervous system. When I found out about this, I was literally like, oh my god, wow. And it's something that honestly I don't use massively to the kind of basic extent, but I use it and have adapted it into my lifestyle. Because what tip is it's about getting like a bucket, so I use like my sink, of ice water or just really cold water, and you have to dip your face into it like you're going into a dive. And the science behind it is actually mad. So doing that and doing the kind of dive into it, obviously you don't dive, you don't jump, you just put your head into it. I filmed a little clip so it will be on the overlay. Actually triggers like your mammalian diving reflex, and by submerging our face into cold water it actually calms down your nervous system. It literally decreases your heart rate straight away, and it triggers the parasympathetic nervous system, which is literally the nervous system that causes relaxation. So it it forces your body into relaxation, which is mad. Now, like I said, in social situations, you can't really go into the toilet. Well, you can if you've got like no makeup on and you're not bothered about your face, which I have done before. Like when I was crying, I was like, oh. But if you've got like makeup on, it's hard. But what you can do is get ice packs, or I use rose water. So I take rose water out with me, and if I'm feeling stressed or something, I spray it on my face, and not only does it set my makeup, but it actually cools down my face, and that is a way of actually forcing your nervous system into this mammalian reflex where you just calm down. Before I go on to the next one, I want you to remember that these are skills, okay? And with skill, you have to practice. Like, I don't want you to do these things one time and it not work and then you just quit, because it's like, I was like that at the start, and I was like, it's just not working for me, and my CPM was like, well, if you just sat in a car and I told you to drive, would you be able to do it? And she was like, I was like, no. And she was like, well, it's like the skills that you have to kind of build it up. You kind of have to build your mastery and then be able to do it. So even if you're not feeling anxious, doing pace breathing, doing mindfulness, or like practicing tip is a great way to kind of practice, and then when you do need it, you know how to do it. Okay, so stepping away from like the biological thing, another skill we learned in DBT was check the facts. Now, check the facts is great. Pip and I use it all the freaking time, because like we'll be catastrophizing about a situation, I'm like, this is gonna go wrong, and then Pip will be like, check the facts. And this is where you can kind of check what emotion you're feeling and whether the intensity is right. So, for example, say the event is you're going into a big room of people, and so that's the event, and then your thought is, oh my god, I'm gonna die, and then your emotion is fear and anxiety, and you have a panic attack because you feel like you're gonna be so overwhelmed by the situation. If you check the facts when you realise the event, so you think ahead and you think, I'm gonna be in a room of people, your brain will automatically kind of go into this habitual I'm gonna die panic phase. But if you check the facts at this point and think, am I gonna die? Most likely no. Like, most likely I won't die. What is the most likely thing that can happen? The worst thing that could happen is that you go into there and you make a bit of a fool of yourself and you leave. That's all, really. That is the worst thing that can happen. If you do things like this, it's the best way to learn how to rationalize yourself, to learn how to ground your mind and to take control back from your mind. I feel like we often spiral into this kind of decline of worry and fear and thoughts, and we think that our thoughts are so right. Thoughts aren't facts, okay? And once you realize that, it will give you control of your mind back. Just because I'm thinking something, like I can think my top is pink. Does that mean my top is pink? No, it's not a fact, but I still thought it. But if you kind of separate yourself from these thoughts and realise that just because you're thinking it doesn't mean that it's necessarily true, you'll start to build your mastery, you'll start to feel better, you'll start to be able to cope better. So with checking the facts, obviously we want to catch it at the event or the thought. If it gets the emotion, then that's fine, but you want to try and catch it, especially at the thought, because catching it at the event is hard. But if you notice that you're having the thought, I'm gonna panic, I'm gonna die, this is gonna go wrong, that's where you can change it. And you have to start asking yourself, why am I feeling this? Check the facts. Is this true? If you're checking the beliefs of the situation, you'll notice that what you're believing is probably very intense, and the intensity is very large compared to what the situation actually is. Carry on with the room thing. Being worried about going into a crowded room is normal. Thinking that you're going to die because you're going to go into a crowded room is intense. And this is the kind of balance I'm talking about with fear. So you can be fearful and anxious about going in, and that's totally normal. But thinking you're going to die and having panic episodes and getting yourself really worked up over it is where the intensity takes off. And if we can bring that down a bit, you'll be able to enjoy your life a bit more. It's not wrong for having it. It's just the intensity needs to be brought down, because otherwise it's literally going to ruin your life, because everything's going to seem like such a massive thing when in fact you can probably handle it, or you can just decide not to do it. If it's going to cause you that much stress, you can then take control and say, I'm not going to do this. I don't want to do this today, and that is totally fine. Saying no to things is okay if you don't feel like it, okay? It's really important to know that. Don't feel guilty for saying that you can't do something. Now, the final two things I'm gonna just kind of talk about is coping ahead with anxiety and your vulnerability factors. Vulnerability factors are so important, and I don't think a lot of people even take them into account. There are so many things that can make you feel vulnerable to a certain emotion. So they can be biological, you know, I could be on my period, and that way if I'm gonna go and do something stressful, I'm probably gonna start screaming and crying and wanting some Ben & Jerry's. Like, that's the reality of it. Because I'm on my period, my emotions and my hormones are going everywhere, so added stress that I would normally be able to cope with, I might not be able to cope with at that time. Do you understand what I mean? Things like alcohol, so if you're out in a club and you've got alcohol, you're more vulnerable to feeling intense emotions than you would be if you weren't intoxicated. And that's not me saying don't go out and get drunk, because babe, go out and get drunk, it can be fun. But you need to understand that there are certain things which make you more vulnerable, and if you notice that the only times you're having these outbursts is when you're really, really drunk, or on your period, or you know, like high, or doing something, then that's when you need to take a step in. One of my friends actually, she realised that she was having an awful time when she was drinking. Like, every time she drank she had, you know, bad things, you know, she didn't enjoy it, her anxiety and all of the negative intense emotions were way out of hand, and she decided to stop drinking, and she's able to do that. And I just think that's so strong and like so self-aware and controlled, that it's so important to realise that you have the ability to change these vulnerability factors. I can't change the fact that I'm on my period, but I can change the fact that I'm not going to set myself up for stress during these times. Another thing that is a vulnerability factor is literally not understanding your emotion, which I totally get. Like, it's awful when you're feeling things and you're like, I don't know what I'm feeling, like, but I'm not feeling good. That can be a vulnerability, because if you don't even know what's going on, then you can't really fix it, because you need to have a starting point. It sounds really basic, but I don't think you realise it until you're told. So taking into account vulnerability factors will help you so much, because you can kind of start planning ahead. Which leads me on to my next thing. Coping ahead with anxiety. You can only do this if you've started to notice your emotions, started to notice patterns of when you see your emotions take place, and also notice when your behaviour and intense emotions go out of control. I noticed, for example, for me, arguments. During arguments I get extremely heated, I get so upset and hot-headed, and I know that my emotions take over me. I am in emotional mind, like emotional mind is in me. Like, it's really, really hard to deal with when I'm in an argument. So I know that if there's an argument that's going to take place, I need to step back, especially if there are vulnerable factors included. Say if I'm out and I'm drinking, or if I'm on my period, I know that I will snap and my emotions will explode. I think a massive thing with anxiety is letting other people know as well. Me and Pip have this thing that if we're out and one of us feels anxious or even just feels bad, we leave. Like, we don't even make any remarks, we leave. And we kind of let the other person take control of the situation, because we can't do it ourselves. So we'll be out and Pip will be like, oh, I'm just feeling a bit, you know. And I'm like, oh, same. Let's go home. Let's get some noodles. Let's watch some films and just go to sleep. And she's like, yes, because she's told me beforehand that when she feels anxious, she feels guilty having to leave a situation. Similarly, my parents and that, they know that if I'm anxious, I want to kind of leave. That's my go-to. My go-to is I leave because I don't want to deal with it. It stresses me out too much and I need to go home, get into my pajamas and be in my safe place. So I've kind of prepared them for anxious situations, and it's not a big deal. If you don't do this, and I didn't used to do this, then when you're anxious in a situation, it's going to make your life so much harder, because say if you leave, then other people don't know where they are, they'll start getting stressed about where you are, they'll be texting you, where are you, and they won't know, and you'll feel guilty for going. But if you beforehand let them know, you know what, I'm feeling quite anxious tonight, if I leave, don't worry about me, because I just want you to enjoy your night, but I might want to go. Something as simple as that is you taking control of the situation and building your own mastery. You are controlling what is going to happen. Even if it does happen, you have a backup, and in your mind that's going to give you the peace of mind that I know what I'm going to do if something goes wrong, because I can just leave. I've already told my friends and they're okay with it. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be a big scene where you kind of explode and your friends are having to deal with it because they didn't know. And finally, there's self-soothe. I'm not going to be talking about Christ shit team things. No, that's really rude. But you know when like the crisis team say you need to take a bath? Like things like that, they're not wrong, but they don't tell you like what you should actually do. When I say to you like you need to do something that you know you enjoy, that you know you're good at, or that you know will calm you down. So it's not I'm going to tell you to take a bath, it's I'm going to ask you what are you good at, and you're going to take control of that situation and then do it. For example, when I feel anxious, I walk my dog. Do I want to walk Albie? No. Do I want to leave the house? No. Do I want to put shoes on? No. But do I know that it calms me down? Yes. Do I know I always feel better after it? Yes. Do I know that I'm capable of doing it? Yes. That's the kind of thing that I think professionals mean when they tell you like have a bath. So I know that I don't like having baths really, so having a bath doesn't calm me down, but for some people that's their place to kind of calm down and chill. You have to do things that you know that you're capable of and then you know that you can do and enjoy, because say if you've had a really awful day at work and you're really anxious, if you come home and you try to like do all the work that you've got to do but you're really anxious and you've had an awful day, you're not going to do it well and you're going to stress yourself so much. You need to give yourself a break a bit. What I used to do actually, I've just thought about this, is my CPN said to me, give yourself 10 minutes to worry. And it's really funny actually. So I would be like, okay, so I'd set a timer and I'd sit on my bed and I'd think about everything that I'm worried about. And I tell you what, once I tried to worry, once I tried to literally force myself to worry, I couldn't do it. So I'd do it for like a few minutes and then I'd be like, I think I'm out of worries. And then I'll be able to go and do what I want to do, like tidy my room and take my dog for a walk, and think, oh, I don't need to worry anymore because I've just had 10 minutes to worry and it's been fine, and I've got all my worrying out, and I'd be able to be in the next moment and doing the next thing without being preoccupied with what had already happened. Give that a go, because that actually works. Give yourself 10 minutes to worry and then see if you can actually do it. So this is going to conclude the first video. I feel like I have word vomited all over you, but please let me know if you like this video. It was kind of a bit more structured, it was a lot more technical, and like genuinely I think these things will work for you. So if you try any of them out, let me know, send me some pics of you with a wet face. That sounded weird, but yeah, like I actually really want to know, because this video like and this series might be quite a lot of work for me, but if you guys like it, if you think that it's beneficial, then I will carry on doing it. Also comment down below what you find is the best way to help with your anxiety, help everyone out. Let's create a little how to cope fam, and yeah, I love you guys so much and I will see you all in my next video.